Hey everybody, in this video I want to talk about how adding one really inexpensive pedal to your setup can drastically improve your tone. And that pedal I'm referring to is a graphic equalizer. The one I have here is just 25 bucks on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for it, and I'll try and put like one of those little tag things up here for it. Just a disclaimer, I get a very tiny commission from Amazon if you buy through that link, but I'm not getting paid by the company or anything. I just like this one. But before we begin, remember to like and subscribe. That way you get notified when I post new videos like these. And check out my website, scottobryanguitar.com. I have the tab for hundreds of punk rock and grunge songs up there, plus some other resources. And here we go. All right, so the equipment I'm using today is my Fender Twin Reverb 65 reissue amp. I'm going to be using this Behringer EQ700 equalizer pedal, and it's basically 25 bucks through Amazon. It's a great deal. It's pretty much a copy of the Boss GE7 pedal, which runs like around 100 bucks. The main difference between the two is that this one comes in a plastic housing, so it's not super durable if you're taking it like on tour or if you're playing a lot of live shows. I'd recommend just, shelling out the 100 bucks and getting the Boss. But if you're just using this thing in your house to tweak your tone or for recording, this is a really great option. I'm also going to be using some distortion pedals, my Ibanez Tube Screamer, the Boss DS1 distortion pedal, and the Rat pedal. Links to all of these pedals are in the description if you want to order them. So there's a ton of different uses for the equalizer pedal. A common one is to just keep all of the settings at 0 and then use it as a level boost, so you can just pop the level up, and then you can hit that and use it kind of as a boost pedal. Mainly where this thing comes in handy is tweaking the frequencies that you can't really adjust through your amp settings. Like a lot of amps have a bass, mid, and treble setting, but what happens with that is there's some in-between frequencies that you can't really adjust, so you can kind of tweak those. And then also, if you're using a distortion pedal, most of them just have a tone knob, which kind of is a one-size-fits-all for adjusting the frequency settings, and again, kind of misses the ability to scoop out some mid-range tones or boost some mid-range tones and tweak the frequencies at the margins. So this will kind of just give you a little bit of polish to your tone and really get you a lot more use out of some of the pedals, like the Boss DS1, which can be kind of harsh in the better positions, and the Rat and the Tube Screamer, which can be kind of muffled in some of the better settings. So I like to put the graphic equalizer at the end of my signal chain on my pedal board, and the main reason is that I play mostly punk or rock style music, and so I basically only use a clean tone or a distorted tone. I don't use a lot of effects typically. So when I'm doing a clean tone, it's basically just my guitar into like a tuner pedal and then into the equalizer straight into like a Fender Twin clean tone amp. So it really is it's at the beginning of the signal chain, but it's also at the end of the signal chain. If you are adding a lot of effects, you might want to put the equalizer at the beginning of your signal chain, like if you're adding a chorus, if you're adding like a phaser or other types of effects, and that will kind of help adjust the signal going into those effects, and it will change the way the effects pedals work on your signal. You can also try at the end as well, really just kind of tweak it and see what you come up with. But as far as like a distortion pedal is concerned, when I'm running a distortion pedal, I'm going to go, guitar to tuner to distortion pedal to equalizer. And the reason I do that is I like to adjust the distorted tone after it's been set on the pedal. So like I'll get a nice sound on the pedal, and then I will just kind of tweak the margins of it with the equalizer pedal, and that comes after the distortion. So for most of the time, I'm running the equalizer at the end of my signal chain. So as far as a clean tone is concerned, with the equalizer pedal, I am really just going to kind of gently scoop out the mids. I might boost the bass and boost the high end, like the 100 bass and the 6400 and maybe the 3200. But for the most part, it's just real gentle. And what I want to do is I'm just increasing the fullness of the tone and increasing the kind of the brightness at the high end. So here's a clean tone without the equalizer on. And then here's with the equalizer with basically I've got the 6400 boosted a little bit, 3200 just a tiny bit, and the 100 boosted, and the rest is just kind of at 0. So it's a little bit fuller, and it's got a little bit of more clarity on the high end. So again, I'm going to just do them back to back. So here's with the equalizer pedal off, and then here's with it on. So it basically just gives it a little bit more presence. Now, my Fender Twin Reverb amp has a bright switch, which you can put on, which kind of emulates this a little bit. So here's that's with the bright switch on. Here's the bright switch off. So it kind of boosts those higher end frequencies, but it doesn't really do much for the low end. So it kind of sounds thinner while also being brighter. What I like about the equalizer, if we turn the bright switch off, is I can get that fullness while also getting that brightness. That's equalizer on. And then here's equalizer off with the bright switch. All right, so the next way I like to use it is with a vintage tube amp emulating pedal like the Ibanez Tube Screamer. One thing that I find about some of these is they have a lot of mids that kind of muffle the tone, and they need just a little tweaking around the edges. So, for example, here's the Ibanez Tube Screamer. So like playing like kind of like a vintage punk style sound, it sounds good, but it could really use like a little bit of tweaking. So again, I'm going to use the same settings I did with the clean tone. I've got a boost on the 100, I've got a boost on the 6400 and 3200, and maybe just a little bit of scoop out on the rest of the frequencies on the mids. And so here's it with the pedal on. And then again, here's with the pedal off. Pedal on. So again, it kind of really increases the thickness, the brightness, the presence of the overall overdrive without kind of changing the tone too much. And again, this is an effect that we can't really get just using the pedal. Even if we turn the tone all the way up on the Tube Screamer, we're going to get a lot of brightness, but we're not going to get a lot of that low end. So that's tone all the way up on the Tube Screamer. Now I'm going to put the tone back down and do the equalizer. Another way I like to use the equalizer pedal is with like a Boss DS1 distortion pedal, where it kind of has a very nice distorted sound, but it can be a little thin sounding sometimes. So I'm going to use that graphic equalizer to just kind of refine the edges of it and just kind of give it that little bit of boost and polish to make it have a good distorted tone. So here's the Boss DS1 without the graphic equalizer. So it's kind of a more modern, I guess, punk type tone. And so now we're going to add the equalizer. And I'm basically doing the same thing I've done before. I'm scooping out some of the mids. It's a real gentle cut, even less than I was doing before. And it's just going to kind of polish this up a little bit. So again, here's with it off. And here's with it on. And it also gives it that little bit of bass boost for palm muting, which is hard to get with the DS1 without kind of cutting your tone too much. So here's the DS1 palm muted without the equalizer. And here's it with. And then next I'm going to show you how I like to use it with the Rat style distortion pedal, which is very similar to the way that I'm going to use it and I've used it so far. I'm going to scoop out those mids again, but I'm really going to kind of boost the highs and lows on with the Rat, and you can get some really cool tones out of it. One of the things I find with the Rat type distortion pedal is you can find some cool kind of fuzzy tones with the filter like cranked above 12 o'clock, but then you kind of lose some of the distinct notes and frequencies. So with the graphic equalizer, you can kind of add them back in while also getting that sweet spot. So here's the Rat without the equalizer. And then here's it with the equalizer. So you get that really cool fuzz distorted sound with the sustain. You can get those palm mutes without like losing some of those intermediate frequencies. And then the last way I want to talk about is how I use it with the Big Muff pedal. So with the Big Muff pedal, you can get a lot of great like fuzz tones throughout that spectrum of that tone knob. But once you get up into those higher frequencies, it tends to be really, really, really harsh. But it also has like some good sustain and some really kind of good sounds up there. So what I like to do is I like to use the graphic equalizer to just kind of tone down the higher frequencies. So I use this kind of like downward slanting. So I'm pushing that bass up and I'm kind of scooping out a little bit of the mids and then also just taking out all the harshness of those highs. So here's the Big Muff without the equalizer. And here's with the equalizer. So you get the benefits of the sustain and the kind of tonal qualities of having that tone knob cranked up to like 3 o'clock range on the Big Muff, but without all the harshness. And you can get the heaviness by boosting the bass and then just kind of gradually cutting down to the highs. So that's it for this video. I really encourage you to pick up one of these. Like I said, only 25 bucks on Amazon. You really can't go wrong. Or if you want something that's a little bit more durable, go with that Boss GE7 pedal. It's essentially the same thing in a more durable housing. And if you click the link, I get a tiny commission. It helps support the channel. So thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe so you get notified when I post new content like this. And check out my website, scottobryanguitar.com. I have the tab for hundreds of punk rock and grunge songs up there. And I'll see you guys next time.